My 33 female father died recently. He had been married to his widow, Penny, for about 7 years. I was not close with my father. We spoke regularly and enjoyed each other's company, but I can't say we knew each other well for many years before his death. When he died, I was surprised to learn that he had left his entire estate to me. He put everything in a trust a year before his death, and I'm the sole beneficiary. Besides a small sum he left to Penny, the lawyer said he was advised not to leave her anything in case she tried to contest it. Everything, including his house, is now mine. Furthermore, my father's lawyers and mine have advised that the will is structured such that it would be near impossible and costly to challenge. I don't want my father's money. I don't need it. And given our relationship, I don't feel right using it. However, he obviously wanted me to have it, so I intend to transfer everything over to my daughter, make her the beneficiary of the trust, and she'll have that in addition to her own trust fund once she's of age. However, I don't want to keep my father's house. I don't live in the same country as my father, and I don't want to deal with the admin of his possessions. I want the legal business done, close the book on a very painful chapter, and grieve quietly. The trouble is, Penny lives in the house. Penny didn't work and was financially dependent on my father. So while the lawyers say she could fight to stay living in the house, she likely can't afford legal counsel. Also, because of her lack of income, she would never be able to maintain the house, which is quite large. So I would then have to keep up the house and grounds while she lived there, which I'm not willing to do, both because of the cost and because of the continued involvement with my father's life, which I do not want. I have notified her via the lawyers of the intention to sell the house, which has led to vicious and vitriolic messages from her kids calling me evil and heartless. I understand that this is inconvenient for them, but I'm not responsible for what my father decided to do, nor am I responsible for the people or the mess he left behind. I'm not doing this to get one over on Penny. I'm just trying to be done with the traumatic part of my life. Am I the idiot? Edit. My father was a peculiar man. It's quite possible Penny did something small to irritate him one day, and this is how he took revenge. Not the idiot. If Penny has the means, she can buy the house from you, or her children can buy it for her. If she does not have the means, she's probably planning to mooch off of you. Your dad has been unfair to her, sure, but that's not your fault nor your responsibility. Penny isn't an idiot for being upset. Her kids are kind of idiots for being little harassing losers. Or Penny was under the impression her husband cared about her enough to continue taking care of her after he passed. That's what most single-income homes typically did and still do. It sounds like you and Penny have something in common. You've both been mistreated by your father. You have no obligation to her. You're not the idiot. But perhaps you could take this opportunity to be merciful to her and use the proceeds of the house to purchase a small house or an apartment, since you don't need the money at this time. Penny could live in it for rent or cost. You could hire a rental management company for which the tenant could pay, so you don't have to be involved. Then once Penny passes, you could sell. It might be a good investment. I would give her enough money out of the sale of the house to let her buy her own home, plus a bit of living money, and just be done with it. Showing kindness to people, especially when it would be easy for OP, who seems to be already financially well set, would be a small thing to OP and life-changing to his father's widow. Don't listen to stupid advice. You owe her nothing. Do not give her money without talking to your lawyers. Once you've set a price with your realtor, give her and her family a chance to purchase the house before you list it. Then if they refuse, go ahead and sell. Not the idiot, and will be if you sell and give her nothing. I'm big on the idea that a person makes their choices with their will for a reason, and they should be honored. From what OP has said, I honestly feel like this is a double-sided torture. He's hurting both Penny and his daughter by putting her through this. What kind of father sets his daughter up to make his wife homeless upon his death? If he had a reason, he should have shared it with OP, at the very least. Anyone who does this to their child and doesn't think of the emotional impact it'll have on everyone is very, very messed up. My daughter, young child, and I, female 23, live in a small house near the mountains with my grandparents, female 67 and male 70. So you can pretty much hear everything that's going on since all of the rooms are right next to each other. Even though we don't have neighbors for miles, my grandparents get angry if there's too much noise. Mind you, my grandpa's a heavy sleeper, and my grandma sleeps with earplugs, and they always have a loud fan going in the background. Yesterday, I promised to let my daughter do whatever she wanted, as long as it didn't include a mess or any trouble. Of course, as long as she got all of her chores done, and she did. So around 9:30 p.m., she wanted to do some Disney sing-alongs before her bedtime, so I agreed. I let her sing along to Let It Go on the TV, and even though I told her to keep it down multiple times, she got really loud when the climax hit. Unfortunately, it somehow woke up my grandparents, who were pretty mad. I apologized to my grandparents and said it wouldn't happen again, and that we'd stop with the sing-alongs. But instead of forgiving and forgetting, my grandma shouted, "We let you live here with us, yet you can't respect us when we're trying to sleep? No wonder your mom kicked you out." She warned me that if I kept making noise, she was going to make me pack my bags and leave, and that I'd take my daughter with me. I've caused trouble in the past because I've lived here since I was 17, when my parents kicked me out pregnant, but I've calmed down a lot since then. I honestly think she was exaggerating this situation because I was just letting my daughter sing, and she just happened to get too loud, but she still yelled at both of us and threatened to throw us out of her house late at night. I started crying, and so did my daughter. My daughter begged my grandma not to make us leave, and she continued about how she would be ready to pack our bags if we didn't stop crying to my daughter. My grandpa tried calming her down and telling her that it wasn't that big of a deal. That's when she finally went back to bed. I immediately turned off the TV, and my daughter and I went to bed. She was still crying. I know I probably shouldn't have let her sing any karaoke while they were sleeping, but I don't think my grandma should have handled it the way she did. My daughter's still upset today, and my grandma refuses to apologize. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You were thrown out of your parents' house when you were pregnant, and your grandparents were kind enough to take you in. Now you're unwilling to respect their rules? I can't imagine this went from being a perfect angel, and this was your first infraction, to being threatened with homelessness. A reaction like that suggests that this was the straw that broke the camel's back. This sing-along happened at 9:30 at night? What was a young child doing up at 9:30 anyway? In what world is that acceptable when living in someone else's home while they're trying to sleep? Grandma already has earplugs and a fan to drown out regular noise. OP took that as a challenge. OP, you have a young child to provide for, and keeping quiet at night is your housing condition. You risk your daughter's housing because you think your grandparents' rules are unreasonable? That's a very bad judgment on your part. You should be instilling respectful behavior in your child and working on saving money to get your own home, where you can make the rules eventually. Apologize to your grandparents and start working on yourself and your relationship with your family. You're an adult now and should be acting as such. I agree that OP was the idiot. My only caveat is that I don't love that Grandma was screaming at the young child that she would be thrown out. This is an adult conversation. The adult deserved to get her butt reamed out. The child was simply following her mother's direction, and she didn't deserve the same treatment. I, 24 female, got engaged to Derek, 30, male, 1 month ago. Prior to that, we had known each other for 6 months. I know that's not a long time, but when you know, you know. We are madly in love and ready to commit to each other fully. My sister, 26, has a problem with that, though. She was very supportive of my relationship with Derek before we got engaged. When I sent her a text telling her that we were engaged, she responded by saying, "Congratulations." But then when I saw her the week after, she got all serious and said I should strongly consider the marriage. She told me that I was young and could meet people I loved more. That was offensive to me because I love Derek more than anything, and she's basically saying that my love isn't that important. She also told me that Derek and I could date a while longer before we married, but we're already fully committed to each other, so we might as well get married and be recognized as soulmates in the eyes of the law. Anyway, the conversation was so hurtful to me, I eventually asked her very directly, "Do you support me marrying Derek?" She said no. So I stood up, told her she shouldn't be at the wedding if she didn't want us to get married, and left. I haven't talked to her since, although she has texted me multiple times asking to talk. Derek and I were working on the wedding guest list yesterday, and we both agreed my sister should not come if she doesn't support us. So we're planning not to invite her. I mentioned this to my friend yesterday and pointed out that it may be rude of me not to invite her. So, am I the idiot for not inviting my unsupportive sister to my wedding? You are the idiot. You've not known him long enough to actually love him. You're infatuated. On top of that, are you ready to ruin the relationship with your sister for a guy you actually do not know? The fact that he's ready to allow for estrangement is very concerning. Narcissists and abusers like to isolate their victims. That's my concern regarding him encouraging this rift with your sister. That stood out to me. Someone who's 30 should and would understand that a 6-month relationship jumping to marriage is odd, even if they happen to be one of the few people where it ends up working out. A mature 30-year-old would say, "She's your sister. She has a right to be concerned. She doesn't understand our relationship," or whatever. He's really quick to jump on the isolate you from your family train, and that's concerning. Sister being concerned isn't toxic or unusual. Any adult would see that. They both sound childish and not ready for marriage. OP, I've had pimples longer than you've known your partner. It actually sounds like your sister just wants what's best for you. Don't get me wrong. You can make your own choices regarding your relationships, but it's kind of sketchy to me that your fiance's fine with you just cutting contact with your sister instead of trying to be supportive and help smooth things over. I love my husband, and I would never encourage him to cut contact with his family with such ease. I have a friend who's been in love with the one 3 different times. She's 27. We're working on her understanding of the concept. If he's the right one right now, he will still be the right one if you wait a year or so. OP, I think you're being very naive, and I agree with your sister. My wife and I have been married for 7 years, and for the most part have a great relationship, but there is a major point of strife with transportation. She does not have a license and has no interest in driving. I did purchase driver training for her twice, and I bought a second car which is now collecting dust. She didn't ever agree to practice after lessons and didn't want to take the exam because she was too anxious. I suggested she try therapy for driving anxiety, given that my job provides insurance, but she's not interested. This is usually not a problem, as I drive our son, too, to daycare and then drop her off. This adds to my commute, but it's good because we only pay for parking once. About twice a week, I have to work late, which I warn her of 2 weeks in advance. Usually she has her mom or sister drive her home on those days. Using this system, we've gotten along for the last few years. I'm on vacation for 2 weeks, which is my first time off since December 2021. I asked her 3 months ago to find some way into work so that I could sleep in, let our son sleep in, and be able to do activities with him out of the house. She brushed me off and was non-committal. Fast forward to today. Of course, she found no other way to work. She didn't even look at a bus schedule. She says they're too dirty and too dangerous due to drug addicts. She didn't ask anyone to drive her. So I woke up at 5:30 a.m. to drive her, 1 hour each way in rush hour. Now I have just enough time to clean, finish laundry, get groceries, feed our son, and then turn around and return. I have no time to go to the pool with our son, which I told her was my priority today. After I got home, I sent her a very frustrating text saying, I can't believe she would do this, and she could find her own way tomorrow. I said, don't even bother trying to wake me up, because I'm not setting the alarm and I will ignore you. She said I was an idiot and that this was unacceptable. Am I the idiot here? Isn't the phrase weaponized incompetence? She had the time to find an alternative. Whoops, sorry. I can't find someone to drive me, so you have to. How much is an Uber? She can pay for one. Not the idiot. Enjoy the day with your son tomorrow. Agreed. She needs to learn how to drive or get over her fear of public transport. There will eventually be a time when nobody's available to chauffeur a full-grown woman to work. You've offered to take her to therapy on your insurance, and she's refused. She's choosing to keep this problem with no regard to how it affects everyone who has to readjust to accommodate her. You told her 3 months ago. You are entitled to vacation and time with your son. She appears to have made no effort to make other arrangements or even attempt to take public transit. Getting up at 5:30 a.m., spending 1 hour each way in traffic, plus doing household chores is not a vacation or relaxing in any way. I mostly feel sorry for your poor son, who likely has to wake up at 5:30 a.m. just to sit in a car for 2 hours to drive his mom to work. Why are you married to someone who refuses to actually be an adult? I fully get that she has anxiety, and Lord knows, so do I. But this is absolutely ridiculous. I would rather be alone than with someone like your wife. I have a tween daughter with my ex. We co-parent, but we don't have a good relationship. We've had a lot of trouble with him trying to alienate my daughter from me. I also have 2 more kids, a young male and a female toddler. My daughter is extremely talkative. She won't stay quiet for even a second. The other day, I was having a terrible day. My son had some problems at school and my daughter didn't go to sleep, and I had to cook because everyone was hungry, so I was really busy. And then my daughter came calling me like she always does, "Mom, Mom, Mom, Mom." I finally snapped at her and asked her if she needs to tell me now. She said no. I told her then she could tell me later. Late at night, her dad came to my home angrily demanding I get out of his way so he could see his daughter. He took her and drove to the doctor's office. I went with them as well. Apparently she was feeling sick, and when she saw me busy, she called her dad. She's fine now, but her dad called me an idiot and won't let me see her even though it's my custody time. You are the idiot. Do you even love your daughter? The way you talk about it makes it sound like she's some random, annoying, unrelated kid that you must keep at your home for some reason. Your attitude of she's not your only kid, she knows that. She knows you have 2 kids, but she had no choice in that. It's quite obvious, but what you could at least do is at least pay attention and not take being a mother of 3 out on your oldest daughter and expect her to behave a certain way to make your life better. She's a child you're teaching to be quiet, be seen and not heard. And frankly, I wouldn't fault her dad for being protective. You need a reality check. OP, you got triggered because of the noise levels. Fair enough. But what makes you the idiot is how you reacted to that. Your kid didn't do anything wrong. She came to tell you something, and in your overwhelmed state, you yelled at her and lost the opportunity to help her when she was sick. Why didn't you go to her later to see what she wanted? Please go to your little one and apologize for how you handled this situation and explain to her that you will actively try to be better and how.